Hello everyone. In this session we are discussing the questions of the previous years from polity part. So let us start with the questions. Now the next question, out of the following statements choose the one that brings out the principle underlying the cabinet form of government. Now the word cabinet itself, it was not present in the original constitution. It has been added in article 352, which says that the president cannot declare national emergency unless the cabinet has given a written approval for it. Okay? So cabinet, what is the purpose of having a cabinet? The cabinet is basically a body within the council of ministers which takes decisions on behalf of the council of ministers. Whatever decisions the cabinet is taking, the council of ministers, it is assumed that the council of ministers decision is this one. So council of ministers is the body which advises the president. President works on the advice of council of ministers, so cabinet becomes the highest decision making body of the country. Now cabinet is working on the basis of collective responsibility. Cabinet is working on the basis of partnership between the members of the cabinet. They are taking collective decisions. So when we look at the statements over here, let us have a look at the statement. First one, an arrangement for minimizing the criticism against the government whose responsibilities are complex and hard to carry out to the satisfaction of all. Now how does the cabinet reduce the criticism of the government? That is not true. So this statement is not correct. I mean, they can be correct, but they are not the justification for what is the question over here. Next one, a mechanism for speeding up the activities of the government whose responsibilities are increasing day by day. This is also not correct. Cabinet is not a method which has been used today. If this statement was correct, day by day, it means that cabinet was not there in the past, but the cabinet has been there in UK since a long time. And we are also having a cabinet since the very first council of ministers formed. So this statement is not a correct justification. It is not just a administrative requirement, it is based on some principle, democratic principles. So a mechanism of parliamentary democracy for ensuring collective responsibility of the government to the people. So parliament is the body where the council of ministers is accountable. In the Lok Sabha it is accountable. So council of ministers is collectively responsible to the Lok Sabha. It is collectively accountable to the parliament. So cabinet is that method through which we are holding the government accountable in the parliamentary form of government. Whatever decisions cabinet is taking, it is the collective decision of the council of ministers. If you go wrong, the house can say the whole council of ministers is wrong. That is why parliamentary democracy is sometimes even called as dictatorship of the cabinet. It was criticized in UK by saying that it is nothing but dictatorship of the cabinet. Okay, so this statement is the correct statement. The next one, a device for strengthening the hands of the head of the government whose hold over the people is in a state of decline. This is again not correct. This is the correct justification. Okay. Next one, consider the following statements. The executive power of the Union of India is vested in the Prime Minister. If you look at this statement, the first one, executive power of the Union of India is vested in the Prime Minister. This is not correct. Article 53 of the Constitution, it very clearly declares that the executive powers of the Union shall be vested in the President. Okay. So this statement is not correct. Then the Prime Minister is the ex officio chairman of the Civil Services Board. Now if you look at the Prime Minister, he is not the chairman of the Civil Services Board. That role is performed by the Cabinet Secretary. Okay. So this is neither one nor two. Now which of the following are discretionary powers given to the governor of a state? Which of the following are discretionary powers given to the governors of a state? So if you look at the statements, first one, sending a report to the President of India for imposing the President's rule. This is a discretionary power. Article 356 very clearly talks about it. Second one, appointing the ministers. This is not a discretionary power. It has to be exercised only on the advice of the Council of Ministers. Over here it will be the Chief Minister himself. So governor will appoint minister on the advice of the CM. This statement is not correct. Then reserving certain bills passed by the state legislature for consideration of the President of India. This is correct. Article 200 very clearly provides that the governor can reserve a bill for the President. And that is a discretionary power. Next, making the rules to the conduct of business of the state government. So this is not a correct statement. Article 166 provides the governor the power to make rules. But this rule is not a discretionary power, it is a power to be exercised only on the advice of the Council of Ministers. So two statements are correct, two are incorrect. Okay, so 1 and 3. B is the correct answer. Now consider the following statements. Now this question again the theme is similar. The first statement says the President shall make rules for the more convenient transaction of business of the Government of India and for the allocation among ministers of the said business. So this power is there with the President. Article 77 talks about this power. Of course it is to be used on the advice of the Council of Ministers. Okay? Then all executive actions of the Government of India shall be expressed to be taken in the name of the Prime Minister. This is again incorrect. Just now there was a question, the previous question also was on the same theme. It is to be expressed in the name of the President. So first statement is correct, second is incorrect. The answer is A. Now, which of the following function is the function of the Cabinet Secretariat? So if you look at the Cabinet Secretariat, preparation of agenda for Cabinet meetings. This is correct. Secretarial assistance to the Cabinet committees. This is also correct. Allocation of financial resources to the ministries. No. Financial resources are not allocated to the ministries by Cabinet Secretariat. It is allocated through the Finance Ministry. So this is not correct. So 1 and 2 are correct. C. Next, which one of the following statements is correct? First one, in India the same person cannot be appointed as a governor for 2 or more states at the same time. No, this is not correct. A person can be appointed as a governor of multiple states. Okay. So there can be a situation where the governor is appointed as an additional, in additional charge as a governor of other states also. For example, recently Dr. Tamilisai Sundarajan, she was the governor for Tamil Nadu as well as Andhra Pradesh for some time. I think Andhra Pradesh or Telangana, one of them. So there was a situation where Mr. Jagdeep Dhankar, the current vice president, he was a governor for Bihar for some time. When Dr. Ramnath Kovind, he had resigned from the governor's post to contest as, he had joined the office of president, and the governor post of Bihar was vacant for some time. So that is perfectly possible. There is no problem. The second statement is the judges of the High Court of the states in India are appointed by the governor of the state, just as the judges of Supreme Court are appointed. Wrong. Judges of High Court as well as Supreme Court are appointed by the President. Third one, no procedure has been laid down in the Constitution of India for the removal of a governor from his or her post. This is very correct. Article 155 which talks about the removal of governor, it merely says governor remains in office till the pleasure of President. It does not provide any elaborate procedure for it. So this statement is a correct statement. Next, in the case of a UT, a union territory having a legislative setup, the chief minister is appointed by the lieutenant governor on the basis of majority support. This is incorrect. Okay, the CM of a UT is not appointed by the LG. Who is the head of the state executive of the who is the head of the executive of the UT? It is the president himself. LG is merely playing the role of the agent of president. So it is the president who appoints the CM and the ministers on the advice of the CM. Okay. So I think the C is the only correct statement in this question. Next one, consider the following statements. The Council of Ministers in the centre shall be collectively responsible to the Parliament. Now the word used over here is Parliament. This is wrong. It should be Lok Sabha. Article 75 clause 3 very clearly says it should be the Lok Sabha. Next one, the Union Ministers shall hold the office during the pleasure of the President of India. This is correct. Union Ministers are holding the office during the pleasure of President of India. So individually they are responsible to the President. If the President wants, they can remove. He can remove the ministers, but the President will want only when the PM is recommending it. So it is to be used on the advice of the PM, but effectively the power is with the President. Third one. So this is a correct statement. The PM shall communicate to the President about the proposal for legislation. This is very correct. Article 78 talks about it. So 2 and 3 are correct. Next, according to the Constitution of India, it is the duty of the President of India to cause to be laid before the Parliament which are the following. So, what are the constitutional responsibilities on the President to present as a report to the Parliament? Recommendations of the Union Finance Commission, it is there. Okay? A report of the Public Accounts Committee. This is not a duty of the President per se. Public Accounts Committee is within the Parliament now. Report of the CAG, this is correct. Report of National Commission of Scheduled Castes, this is correct. Okay? So 1, 3 and 4 will be the answer. Okay? Next, the Prime Minister of India at the time of his or her appointment, let us see what are the statements. First one, need not necessarily be a member of one of the houses of the Parliament but must become a member of one of the houses within 6 months. This is correct statement. The only qualification of ministers is that they must become members of the house within 6 months. Article 75 says so. Then, need not necessarily be a member of one of the house of the parliament but must become a member of the Lok Sabha within 6 months. Not correct. He can be a member of Rajya Sabha also. Dr. Manmohan Singh was a member of Rajya Sabha. Okay. Must be a member of one of the houses of parliament. So this statement is not totally correct because it does not talk about the time and it says must be a member. So if he is not a member, he cannot be appointed. This is not correct. Okay. Must be a member of the Lok Sabha. This is also not correct. So the correct statement is need not necessarily be a member of one of the houses but must become a member of the houses within 6 months. Now the next question which we are taking is from the judiciary. The question is, consider the following statements. Pursuant to the report of H.N. Salyal Committee, the Contempt of Courts Act 1971 was passed. This is correct information. We had a Contempt of Court Act from 1940 onwards, but the reform in the Contempt of Court Act happened after this report and we had the Contempt of Court Act 1971. So this is the correct statement. Second one, the Constitution of India empowers the Supreme Court and the High Courts to punish for contempt of themselves. So if you read Articles 129 where Supreme Court and Article 215 which talks about the High Court, both of these articles provide the Supreme Court and High Court with the power to punish for their own contempt, being courts of record. So this statement is correct. Then the Constitution of India defines civil contempt and criminal contempt. No, it is not defined. You find this information in the Contempt of Court Act 1971. And the last statement is, in India the Parliament is vested with the powers to make laws on contempt of court. This is correct statement. Though the Supreme Court and High Court have been given the power to punish for contempt, Article 19 Clause 2 which talks about the restrictions on freedom of speech and expression very clearly provides contempt of court as a ground. So the state can make a law to restrict contempt of freedom of speech and expression to prevent contempt of court. So this is a power which does exist with the Parliament. So again, if you look at the context, 2022 this question was asked. Probably the context was somewhere in the recent controversy surrounding contempt of court. We had Mr. Prashant Bhushan, a very senior advocate of the Supreme Court, convicted for contempt of court 2 years back. So the question was probably in that context. Okay. So you should not be bothered about from where this fact came, H.N. Salyal Committee. It was being reported in the newspapers about like that, and that is why the question was there. So the answer will be, the first statement is correct, then this statement is correct, this statement is correct. Okay. So 1, 2 and 4 is the answer. Thank you.